those are two very different things, but like that was why earlier on I was asking you, like, how did you come to the idea of Teach for America? Like, where was the point where you were finally, when was interest developed, and then when was commitment consolidated throughout the recruitment process?
Okay.
Yeah, and like those are the sorts of questions I have, because like what you said right at the beginning of the interview is very similar to what I hear everywhere, which is the number of people who get asked whether or not they want to be a teacher, even if they have worked in schools for 4 straight years doing extracurriculars, is like staggeringly low. I have had, however many interviews I have had no person tell me that they have been asked whether or not they wanted to be a teacher before their junior year. And it's kind of terrifying from my perspective as someone who like wants more people to be doing teaching. Like not necessarily doing teaching for their whole life, but just like even just to consider it is kind of surprising to me that people haven't been asked that question.
Yeah, I wonder if part of it is like at Penn, we have the education major for undergraduates is called like urban studies.
Oh yeah.
So all the students who know they want to go into education are already studying urban studies. So I think there's like kind of an assumption like if you're not studying urban studies, you don't want to be a teacher because otherwise you're studying urban studies if you want to be a teacher. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It definitely makes sense. And so pathway programs like people who are really interested in STEM, for example, so Harvard instituted a program where you can major in math and then get a minor in education to get teacher licensure, and it like converted a whole bunch of STEM people that wouldn't have ordinarily gotten converted. And so small things like that get people hooked in through their subject matter interest and then make the pathway an easy conversion right at the end when people are really worried about not having enough credits is like a really easy switch that can actually end up bringing a whole many more people into the fold. We just need to kind of pretty well establish that discourse doesn't exist on campuses in order to drive demand for it amongst administrators. Yeah.
So your theory is kind of like Teach for America has a monopoly on national alternative education programs, and you're wondering why there aren't competitors to Teach for America?
That's probably a tertiary hypothesis. The primary hypothesis is that teacher education programs don't recruit. Full stop.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the primary hypothesis. And it bears out, right? Like how many teacher education programs other than TFA were part of OCR on your campus? Or like how many times did any mention of like Penn's career services, how many times did Penn Career Services ever mention teaching as an option or education as an option? And I imagine it was pretty low. And so part of that is because the teacher education programs aren't going the distance themselves and actually recruiting. And so I'm talking to a bunch of people from other teacher education programs who are admitted, and all of them tell me about how they had to spend hours and weeks Googling programs in order to find out which one worked for them. And they had to call different programs and sift through different things. All of them had complicated spreadsheets trying to understand what teacher education programs were like. And so it's useful to kind of have this data, this anecdotal data from people who went through Teach for America, just to be actually, this is what teacher education recruiting could look like. At the end of the day, I used to work for the Teach for network in many capacities, and by and large, I think they're an okay teacher education program. I think they are in a top tier recruiting outfit. I think their recruitment is incredible. And I think that, even if we had something that was marginally like that at the system level, we could convert a whole many more people into education if we just tried.
Right.
Yeah.
So is your secondary hypothesis that the teacher education programs don't recruit and advertise because they assume there's no demand, but then there is actually demand?
Oh, interesting. I've never considered it from the agency of the teacher education programs of what, I have. So broadly speaking, I guess my assumption is that teacher education programs don't do it because they're under-resourced. Having been someone who's worked for a university before as a teacher educator, you just never have the time. You spend a lot of time just like randomly talking to whoever gets in touch with you, but you never really have a strategy, and you don't have an implementation plan or anything like that. My secondary is that there is not an established pipeline on the student side for learning about teaching as an option and then cultivating interest and then garnering commitment. So there are lots of opportunities for young people like you to do things like tutoring, mentoring in schools, doing after school programming, but there is nothing, that isn't actually a pipeline. That just happens to be a pipeline, but there's no actual strategy about that that's actually leading to turning people into teachers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so what ends up happening is you get end up having to have pretty in-depth conversations, changing people's mind about teaching in their senior year or quite later on. So I'm talking to a lot of mid-career switchers, and when they talk to me about their journey for figuring out that they want to be a teacher, they're telling me on the scale of 5 to 6 years. And so for me, it's how do you build in that pipeline into colleges, elite colleges? For 5, 6 years, what are you doing? And so that's kind of where sort of one of the secondary hypotheses is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm curious because you started off the phone call saying you were interested in the effectiveness. You were originally interested in the effectiveness of teacher education programs, but now it sounds like you've kind of taken a different path.
Yeah. So I am actually interested in the effectiveness of teacher education programs. This is my 20% project that I'm currently doing. So this teacher recruiting project is my 20%. What I mostly do is I build teacher value-added models trying to evaluate teacher education programs and professional development programs. So very happy to talk about that stuff if you ever somehow through your 2 years are just hey, I talked to someone once about teacher education and teacher effectiveness stuff. I want to follow up on that. Hit me up. I'm very happy to chat about that as well. Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, do you have any questions? Because thank you very much. It was also very good just to sort of talk that out. I hope you kind of get a little bit more of an idea of where I was coming from throughout that whole hour.
Yeah, sure. Did you want the demographics data?
Yes, please, if possible. At any point, you can just say pass if you don't want to answer that question. Only a few questions. Age?
22.
Gender?
Male.
Race?
White.
Undergraduate institution was Penn?
Yep.
GPA?
GPA?
Yeah.
Question.
Ballpark is
maybe a 3.2.
SAT, and ballpark again is fine. Or ACT, whichever you took.
ACT, I got 34, and SAT, I think they changed the score metric. I think it was a 2250.
2250 on the 2400 scale. And then what are you teaching?
So I'm going to be teaching 4th and 5th grade math.
5th math. Excellent. And you only applied for Teach for America, and then you accepted it, and you were applying for non-teaching positions concurrently or had an offer. So from the Peace Corps and the bank. Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much, Robert. Very, very helpful.
Thanks for talking.
No, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to send you a $20 Amazon gift card just to say thank you for your help. This has been really informative and really helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions, please let me know. Just get in touch, and I'm happy to, I'm happy to get back in touch and just walk through anything, really, that you're happy to talk about.
Cool.
Cheers. Enjoy. Good luck.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one. Bye.
Cheers.